countdown to the, event recording is in process. So Mattia, it is all you.
Okay. Today's grant and funding committee members and Metro Art staffs are joining by conference call. In a moment, we will do a roll call for all members present. This meeting will be recorded and posted within 48 hours to the Metro Nashville YouTube channel. All votes will be made by roll call. All action items voted on today's meeting will be reconfirmed at the next in-person meeting of the committee. Now, I encourage all participants to stay muted. We have a small group today, so it may not necessarily be that important for us to stay muted unless you have a lot of background noise. If any commissioners are having technical difficulties with any of these functions, please let us know before we proceed. So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and then I'm going to do roll call for each meeting, for each member. And if you could please verbally answer. So let's see, Bonnie Dow.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Awesome, thanks, Bonnie. Let's see, Sherry Busey. Thank you. Jackie Daniel. Okay, Jackie is not present. And are we the only ones on the commission now, on this panel right now? It's the only ones I see.
Yes, so the new committee members will join in November.
Okay, awesome. Well, we are only missing one committee member at this point, so we're gonna roll on to the next item. So I have to do a motion so that we can have this meeting virtually. So I'm going to call for a motion that the meeting agenda constitute essential business of the body. So I need somebody to make this motion, and I'll read it. The meeting agenda constitute essential business of this body, and meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans considering the COVID-19 outbreak, and is permitted under the governor's executive order number 60. Can someone make that motion? You don't have to repeat all the words. Oh, there it is right there. So you can repeat it if you'd like.
This is Bonnie. I move that our meeting agenda is essential and meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans.
Thank you, Bonnie. Sherry, will you second that?
That.
Thank you. All in favor of Bonnie?
I vote yes.
Sherry?
I vote yes.
And I also vote yes. So we have voted to adopt the virtual or teleconference meeting. So thank you. I think this is all the business that I need to do before we pass the baton over to Janine. So Janine, I'm gonna turn it over to you.
All right, thanks. And so we're gonna, I'm gonna keep this meeting to an hour to respect your time, and I think that is gonna be enough time. So we're just gonna briefly go over the 10 Thrive projects that have been proposed, and then go over 3 different funding allocation scenarios that we definitely need your wisdom and insight on. Okay, so with that, let's just go to the projects. Next slide, please. So first we have the Black Lives Matter Mural, Coalition Mural. The applicant partners, Grace Gadsden, the artist is Saxton Waters II, and then there's also 2 community partners, John Smith and Brenda Ross. The proposed community partners are their associated nonprofits or businesses that they run: John Smith Marketing, Our Revolution National, Middle Tennessee, and Tennessee Alliance for Progress. So basically, this will be a street mural that says Black Lives Matter, and they have their description of the reasons why: reclaiming space for the Black community within the boundaries of unrewarded tax payments and invisibility in the metropolitan area. It's a temporary installation, but it's meant to instill an ongoing motivation to inspire greater trust and reclaim equity in Nashville. So the requested award amount is $9,500. And again, we'll go over allocations at the end. They do have a maintenance plan. They do have, and their budget is going to be based on fundraising, but they do have a plan. Can we go to the next slide? Great. Yeah, and it'll go, currently the plan is for the mural to end in January, but if they fundraise more for maintenance, they'll keep up the space longer, the mural longer. The location is on Woodland between 2nd and Interstate Drive. If you know that area, it's by the Juvenile Detention Center near Nissan Stadium. And it has been, the street closure permit has been approved by Public Works. So this is a go from that technical aspect. So now we're just looking at funding, if we will fund and how much. All right, next slide, please. And we're going to be going over the public art-related projects first. We went over them yesterday at the Public Art Committee, and they all have been approved, so just FYI. And I think this slide, unless my browser is just running slow, it looks like it's not getting the full slide. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's cut off a little bit. We can't.
Okay. Well, I'll just there it is. So this project is proposed by artist Joe Nolan, who has been a previous Thrive recipient, and his previous Thrive project is pictured to the side. So this is it's a different project, but it's ongoing in his this billboard genre that he's been working on, this kind of project, and so it's a new partnership with Workers Dignity and their coordinator, Cecilia Prado. So it's going to begin with an online poetry workshop with essential workers. They're going to create a collaborative poem, and that poem will be displayed in a billboard in South Nashville. And so it's a really interesting way that they do that. One person will write one line, they'll each write poems, and one line will go into the poem. It'll be in English and Spanish. The online poetry workshop will be in English and Spanish, as well as the billboard. And that's all worked into the budget. And so requesting $9,500, and the maintenance is fairly simple. The billboard is removed by the company at the end of the payment of the month fee. And if we're lucky, or if Joe's lucky, it'll, at least for the Madison one, they kept it up for months because they just didn't have a next billboard to go up next, so they just kept it up. So he only paid for a month, we only paid for a month, but I think it was up for several months. So I think it might even still be there. The location that he's proposing and that has been approved by the billboard company, although we don't know the specific, which exact billboard it's going to be, but the location will be around Thompson Lane and Nolensville Pike. And there's a photograph of the intersection there. All right, so next slide, please. Then we have another mural. This is from Leah Haschener, who's a coordinator at TIRC, the Tennessee Refugee Rights Coalition, with the artist Woke 3. You may know him from North, his work with North. And so it's going to be a 1,400 square foot large mural on their newly constructed headquarters along Antioch Pike. Lots of work will be commissioned. Vibrant. They're hoping it's a gathering space. We'll see the rendering in the next slide, but it has a family with hands surrounding them, and those represent the allies and members working together. Flowers and butterflies are symbols of migration and transformation and rebirth. And so, proposed award amount, or suggested award or requested award amount currently is $9,500. TIRC is absolutely on board with taking on the operations budget, or taking on the maintenance absorbing it into their operations budget. The duration will be ongoing, so they plan on having it, permanent and just maintaining it. Next slide. And we'll see the really lovely rendering there, and some examples from Woke 3, so you could see his previous work, and then a picture of the location, but of course it's still under construction. All right, next. Go over these. Creative Girls Rock Mural. This is another another mural, and it is going to celebrate Black Lives Matter, also the voting rights. They're focused on women empowerment, youth development, mental health, and creative arts. Lots of different supporters in their network. They are requesting $9,500. Their maintenance plan is still in development with the location owner, but they know that they are going to have to do that. The duration is 6 months, and public art staff is on board to assist them in creating their maintenance project since they have that technical skill. Next slide, please. We'll see some examples. These are samples of previous work of the artists involved. So Alicia Mrozik, who is also previous recipient of Metro Arts funding, and Elisa Atoll. So you can get an example of some of the thematic elements that'll be included. Their preferred location is going to be at Marathon Villages at 1305 Clinton Street. However, they do have the go-ahead from the owner of that property and all of his properties. There's about 5 buildings that they have the approval to do a wall mural on, and they're just kind of figuring out the final details within their committee now. So there you go. All right, next slide, please. All right, so now we have these colors within an inner journey through art. So this is Ashley Mintz. She's the project lead and the lead artist. She's also a previous Thrive recipient. She's working at the Martha O'Brien Center, also with Vets, Creative Vets, and the Boys and Girls Club. Really interesting project. She's also an accomplished teaching artist, so this project is meant to reconnect participants with the many different aspects of themselves, with poetry as the core element, also different artistic mediums. Their plan is to do virtual workshops, but also in-person socially distant workshops. And they're going to be doing pieces reflective of their emotions, mixed media, postcards. There are some of the proposed projects. Cards, etc., including poetry, incorporating poetry throughout. And she had if you looked up the application, she has a very detailed curriculum and very detailed, just supply list. So, she's done this before, and so she's kind of building on previous lessons she's learned through her previously funded projects. All right, next slide, please. All right, traditions and culture of Native peoples. This is from the project lead Chuck Creasy and Jim Velasic, and they are they're associated with and working with the Native American Indian Association of Tennessee at Long Hunter State Park. As you may know, or not, the powwow was unable to happen this year because of COVID, which is, this, wonderful event that draws in thousands of people over, several days in October. And so this project is going to be a video project, and it's going to highlight the story of Native peoples of Tennessee, and also highlight some of the traditions that they continue to pass along and to live within their cultures, and they have a very solid film crew. Chuck Creasy has a long career in marketing and film, and lots of support from their their deep and committed network. Next slide, please. And we'll go over all of the scores in a bit. So we have the Resilience Through Movement workshop. So this is, Hannah McCarthy is the lead artist. She is a dancer. She works with the Hispanic Family Foundation. So the Hispanic Family Foundation and Plaza Mariachi are the community partners. Others listed are the dancers. She's going to be dancers and musicians she'll be working on. You know, so basically what they're doing is kind of moving, you know, they're accomplished dancers and dance instructors. They're moving their projects onto a virtual stage, you know, over 3 months. And so there'll be, it sounds like lots of fun and just vibrance, and focusing on well-being, and again, like kind of as their title suggests, creating resilience through movement. So during this challenging time, just connecting and expressing joy through dance. So pretty exciting stuff. Requested 9,500. All right, next. Then we have, this is a really interesting project, the youth, I think anyways, the Youth Voice column in the Contributor, elevating youth voice with purpose. So the Contributor, as you know, is a local paper distributed by people experiencing homelessness, focused on local stories. So Girls Right Nashville is partnering with the Contributor, and also connecting youth writers who will put on an edition of the paper. And so everything will be youth contributed. They are going to get paid for their work as any of the journalists would have been. It'll be, you know, purposefully bilingual, you know, from their voices. There will be professional editors, but it will be, you know, youth-driven and a collaboration with the Contributor and folks in the community who are tied to social justice and issues dealing with homelessness. Next slide, please. All right, then we have an art writing symposium that's proposed by Courtney Johnson, who is related to TSU. And so we have a number of community partners from the writers and editors that they are working with. Pretty exciting. They are, I'll just read a little bit. So their aim is to, for all writers of all levels, to develop translatable skills, honest dialogue, and the ability to authentically communicate in writing. So it's a one-day symposium, 5 sessions, lots of really interesting folks, mostly local, but they do have some regional talent. There's an artist who is or a writer who is a healer and a writer. They're really excited about that. It will be free to attend, and they're also sponsoring some student ambassadors with their funding. Next slide, please. Great, and then we have the Movement Story Mix project from a very probably familiar person to all of us at Metro Arts, so Lauren Fitzgerald with Enoch Bunch and Taria the Realist Pearson, who was also a Thrive participant in April. And so this will be, their partners are Graham's Coffee and the Village Church. It will be they're going to be gathering stories, and then gathering stories from the community, so allowing folks to kind of share their stories, and then compiling them, and then creating their own creative expressions of those stories. So yeah, storytelling, DJing, just lots of different creative expressions, and using the story of Black Wall Street as a grounding memory and metaphor for the work. And so it's going to be linking Black social entrepreneurship, the legacy of that, of Black social entrepreneurship. So lots going on there, exciting stuff. All right, next, please. What do we have here? And so we are now going to share the rankings and possible allocation scenarios. So yeah, Grace will share our rankings. So They are currently listed by their from kind of ranked from highest scoring to lowest scoring, and we have a lot of really challenging. We have a really tough decision to make ahead of us, and so there are. So as you can see, Pike's project was the top scoring, moving all the way down to the Movement Story Mix project. The scores were given by the community review panel that we had a couple days ago. And then we have our 3 different allocations scenarios. So the first allocation scenario, which is allocations A, would basically fund the top 2 tiers of projects and completely, so that we would give them 100% of funding, and then not fund the bottom tier. Allocations B, that scenario fully funds most of them, and unfortunately would not fund the lowest scoring project, which is the Movement Story Mix project. Allocation C funds all the projects, however, funds based on the tiers. And so basically the top tier of projects scored would get 100% of their request. The middle tier would get 75%, and the bottom tier would get 50% of their ask. And of course, anyone can choose to not take the funds if that would if it wouldn't be enough to move their project forward, and they could apply again in January if it made sense for their project, if they wanted to develop it more. But that's where we are right now, and I guess for now I'll pause myself, just open it up to any questions first, and then we can have some discussion on your preference for allocations.
So a couple of things. One, hey, is there a way we can see this? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing these numbers. Can we get this somehow in a larger format, or can we blow it up? Anybody else having a hard time seeing these numbers?
Yes, let me see if I can pull that up for y'all.
I'm trying to expand this so I can expand my screen. So if we can just zoom in just a little bit. Oh, thank you, because I'm blind. There we go. And I have a question. It looks like, so what, all scenarios have different amounts, like how much, like they have different ending amounts. So we're essentially saying we'll either, so if we fund B, then we have $50,000 left to roughly to fund the next round of 5 grants. Is this what we're saying? So it's basically how much do we want to fund now compared to what we'd be able to fund in the second round?
Correct. And the first round, and historically, again, we don't have to go by what we've previously done. Historically, the first round gets a larger portion of the funding. Yeah. To sort of start projects, just start them faster, and they would have more time. But we don't have to do that. So that's just what we've done in the past.
Do we have any specific, like, do we ask the question? I know we have in the past, but do we ask the question if they will be able to continue maybe we haven't in the past, but do we have a question about feasibility if they don't get fully funded?
You know what? We the question we ask is, we don't ask about partial funding. We ask if they would do the project or not without our funding.
Right. I knew that was some question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back and look and see where, like, I know you shared the application. So I'm gonna go back and just kind of go through those and just look really quickly and see if I can find the answers to some of those questions to see. So just taking some temperature from the group, Bonnie, Sherry, where are you right now? Where are you what do you feel passionate about, or any questions you have about it? I mean, I think we have some really good projects this time, so I'm excited about that. You know, and I will be honest, I'm leaning towards B. I think, you know, funding as many projects as possible to me is the best course of action. Because I didn't hear a project that I felt like, you know, didn't need funding. But I would love to hear from Bonnie. And
So let me ask, I'm interested sort of in precedent. Have we tended to fund all projects in these?
It depends on the round, honestly. So there have been rounds where all projects get funded, and there are rounds where they're not all funded, and you know, those projects are asked to reapply at the next round.
Right, and that's just about the strength of the proposals, right? I mean, there's been I mean, I agree with Mattia. This is an especially strong group. So Mattia, I think I would say that I support your inclination here.
I mean, it would definitely put us
Yeah,
in, you know, we would have less about the second round, but.
Right, but if we push some of these off for the second round.
We can hear you, Sherry. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'd like to. The option C, of course, gives everybody money, but it doesn't give everybody a lot of money. And I think these projects are so strong, all of them. To sacrifice one project, the option B would probably be the best, because everybody seems to get a good chunk of money, but then it leaves Lauren, all of our conflict of interests, you know, down at the bottom without any. So I'm torn. I don't know what to do, because I don't know what to do. I mean, my tendency is to take the middle ground and do option C, which is the, you know, over $59,000, as opposed to option B. I'd rather spend a little more money and give everybody money, is what I'm saying. So that's I'm going for the option C on the allocations C.
Thank you, Sherry.
I can persuade.
Well, I appreciate your, you know, thoughts. So C, we actually spend less money with C because everybody gets a little less. So that means we would have more to spend in, you know, the next round. And so that is something for consideration. So it sounds like everybody feels like B or C is the choice. So at least we can potentially eliminate A.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. And I do see, I see that Jackie has joined us.
Oh, hey, Jackie. So glad that you could join us.
No, I'm the bad child of the group.
That's all right. I'm glad you're here. Did you get a chance to kind of get here for most of the presentations?
I jumped in extremely late, so I apologize. I don't remember if it was A or C, but you know, the option of giving everyone something, as opposed to, I think it was, what was the other option coming out of you?
Yeah. So the one option would be we would fund everybody but one project. So we had one project, one option that would fund only the top tier. So the last three would not be funded. The B is, of course, everybody gets funded except for the lowest scoring project. And then C, everyone gets some funding.
Yeah, I always feel like more funding gives the projects that we think have the most, has the most, you know, the most legs, if you will. Just, I think that always gives it more opportunity to thrive, hence the name, I guess. So I would actually say give fewer more.
Fewer fully funded.
this is Sherry again. I'm kind of in that direction as well. Now that I give it some more thought and hear your thoughts, I'm leaning on giving more money to less people as opposed to smaller amounts of money to everyone. And that will also give us a little more in our second round to what you stated, Mattia. And I think that that's where I'm standing now at B.
Yeah,
Well,
so
and I'm looking at the scores too, because I mean, I really want to know a little bit more. I feel like it's always hard, you know, we've looked at the projects and, kind of looked through, we've got the documents and details about it. And I know the scores are, generally, um, I'm looking at some of the scores and I don't know if it's appropriate to share feedback on some of the projects. I just feel like looking at the scores, there are clearly some that are pretty at the top of the list, but also like there seems to be the ones that are at the bottom of the list, there seems to be like a conflict in the scoring. Like there's somebody like they were kind of scored very similar and they were not scored similarly by, there's like one low score in a bunch. And so are there any additional thoughts that you can share about some of the projects? I mean, is some of it around, do we have any concern about,
okay, so hold on, Mattia. I just want to make sure I'm following you. But I think I am because now I'm looking. What you mean is in that lowest tier, there's like A and B scores are similar enough, right? But then there's a big drop off
yeah.
for C.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to think through like making sure that we have I'm trying to get into the thought process of making sure that, we are, I think that all the projects are great. And I think that, we have to make we have limited funding. But just wanted to make sure that, the feasibility of these projects, just trying to think through what, looking at the school and through what could have potentially caused some of these groups to be at the bottom or the top, and making sure that, there was at least some consensus around there being viable projects. And it seems like because even the bottom tier, there was some consensus around the top two, like being, viable, good projects, because they look like they're scoring a 20, right, Jenny?
Yes, that's correct.
So like, I'm just trying to make some comparisons here to make sure that like they're, people thought that they were viable projects and that clearly that is the case.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you're reading the scores right, and there was the panelist who entered in the scores for the C panelist, kind of there's a pretty big jump of her score. That person scores to the rest of the panel, and so that is why that's one of the reasons, just to be honest, why staff couldn't come to a consensus of what to present to you as our strongest choice as well. We are grappling with kind of the variation between panelists A, B, and C being the widest, from A and B. And then also there is, just to be honest, right, if you look at the average scores, just even the averages, there's a big jump between, the bottom scoring project and the rest of them. So, I mean, staff read it. Again, staff doesn't score on the community panel. Staff read the application and, we also thought like, oh, this is very solid. And, but to the panelists, some of the things that were clear to staff weren't necessarily articulated correctly. Some of the tie-ins and all of the elements. I think that was like probably the major critique that we took away from the panelists about the lowest scoring project.
Okay.
Marissa, Grace, is that basically it? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yes, I would agree with that. Sorry. That we kind of struggled with how to deal with the variation in the third panelist C. But yes, I would agree with that feedback from the committee that lowest scoring one, their concerns were that they just didn't have a clear articulation of the project, I think.
And so, and just to be clear, to make sure that, like, you know, if we were to go with option B, the person that doesn't get funding can reapply and potentially in the next round. So it doesn't necessarily mean that that project won't be funded at all. They could reapply.
Correct.
Yeah, you know,
But obviously just need to change their timeline.
so the beauty for me of B is that by fully funding these ones that scored well, we are giving them what they need to fully realize it, rather than giving people partial funding and not really knowing how that's going to affect what they wanted to do. Does that make sense?
Right. No, I agree. I mean, that, you know, I think B is where I'm going to stand firm and say that that's the funding option that I prefer. And, you know, really hope that we can, you know, that the last project can reapply and, you know, potentially in the second round, be able to be funded. I think that I feel the most comfortable with that option, particularly looking at the scoring and feeling like, you know, there was some consensus around these projects by at least a couple of the panelists.
Yep.
Sherry and Bonnie and Mattia, I really am on board with everything you just said. So that's it for me.
So, hey, question, Janine, where it says B, there's a COI. Does that mean that there's a conflict of interest? So they didn't judge B and they didn't judge those projects?
Correct. Yeah, both of those had some sort of tie to TSU. So both panelists A and B were connected with TSU somehow, and so could not score.
Yeah.
So that is just one score.
So, like, yeah, for the one that's in the top tier, like, you know, there's only one person, that's one person's opinion on that one particular project that got them to the top tier. So, like, to me, you know, I think that this seems like the fairest way to do it.
Great. Do you want to, should we move this to a vote, or does anyone else have anything else to say?
I'm on board with a vote. Should I make a motion?
I'm ready. Jackie.
Jackie,
Oh.
Sherry, you too?
I'm on board. I'm ready. Do you need me to second, or do you want me to make the motion?
No, I'll go ahead and make the motion, and then you can second.
All right.
So I move that we fund these projects according to the formula in allocations B.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, this is Sherry, I second.
Awesome, great. So we're going to take a roll call vote on this. The motion has been made and seconded that we move forward with the Thrive allocations using the funding scenario B. And so I'm going to call your name if you could please state your vote. Sherry? Bonnie?
This is Bonnie, I vote yes.
Jackie?
This is Jackie. I vote yes.
And Mattia votes yes as well. So the motion has passed. Okay, I'm going to pass it back over to Janine so we can talk about the grant guidelines. Thank you so much, Janine, for that. This is really projects. We're excited about them. At least I am.
Yeah, I'm very excited as well. So thank you all. So we just have a little bit under 15 minutes to begin the grants discussion, but this will continue also in November. to, can we go to the next slide just to highlight kind of the major things that we are considering? So whether or not to hold the basic re-adjudication for next year. Again, typically we adjudicate only those largest organizations every 3 years. However, with COVID and everything, we wanted to open that up for as an option to just fully re-adjudicate. And we did do a survey and have some responses. Not all basic organizations responded. So we could, we can continue to discuss that. But there was a slight, I guess, like a marginal tendency to not do it again, to just go with the scores and move on from there. And then the staff feels that, well, the budget isn't really going to increase. So again, it would just be sort of chopping up the same pie. But there's arguments for both. So we'll pause on that. Any updates to the scoring criteria we want to talk about for sure, because I know that that's, obviously that's the basis for everything really. The equity score, flushing that out. We did a trial run with with Thrive. Panelists everyone seemed to be, applicants and panelists it made sense to them. And, we were able to, to operationalize prioritizing equity and prioritizing, support to groups and artists and communities that have, not previously had access to arts funding. So, that was, but it could be tweaked some more for our grants, of course. Of course, there's the categories, again, with shifting priorities with, with the ongoing COVID-19 challenges, we do have a major, we prioritize operating, but do have a few projects still, some project categories there, but we could rethink of that. There could just be all operating, there could be some very specific new categories. So just a reminder, the categories for projects are access, youth, creation, which is new works, and catalyst. Catalyst is kind of capacity building, and we decided to forego catalyst and just add that to the operating pool. There's also just process in general, which Grace and Marissa and I have been working on, and really excited. We're ditching web grants and moving everything to submittable. All of our funded programs will be under submittable, and we're able to expand our subscription to have all these really great tools, and we will miss nothing. And we will definitely not miss web grants. And then, of course, language and clarity. So again, with less than 9 minutes, I know we wouldn't be able to have a full discussion on it. Is there anything, I guess, for staff, is there anything that we could get you in the meantime to make sure that the November discussion is fruitful and productive? We'll continue to get those, the survey results about the current grantees' current status and their and whether or not they'd like to re-adjudicate in FY22. And anything else or any major points? I also don't want to cut off, discussion completely, but time's ticking, and I know you all are so busy. Anything in addition to the scores, or do you have a preference? Do you have a feeling or a philosophy behind re-adjudicating or not, given what we do know now?
I mean, I'd like to hear what the grantees have to say about that. I mean, it is. I mean, I think that it's not like it's a quick process, and I think some of them may have made decisions based on what they thought they were going to have for 3 years, and then in some scenarios it could shift, and so that might I don't know. I would love to hear their feelings about it. Which you did say that you're surveying them, right?
Yeah, so we can just continue to just check in with the folks that have not responded yet.
Yeah.
And get you, more data.
That's where, that's where I would just love to hear more about it. I don't necessarily have right now, feel like I feel one way or the other about it. I just want to do what's best for the organizations. And I think the equity score, I think we've talked about that at the last, in our board meeting, full board meeting, but I would love to get the details about that again, just so I prepare. I think that's really great. And I'm glad to hear that we've had a trial of that. So I think that's something that's really exciting.
Yeah, I agree with Mattia.
I do as well, Jackie.
This is Sherry, and I'm going to agree with all of you ladies. Good points.
Great. Okay, so staff will definitely follow up with the respondents the grantees that have not responded yet. And we'll get you that information early. We'll get it to you earlier so you can discuss, think about it and discuss. So within the next couple weeks, we'll just have some personal calls and emails to the folks that haven't responded. It's not too, we'll get them. We have relationships with them. It's just a busy time, I'm sure. And also the breakdown of the previously used equity score for Thrive. So you can take a look at that and see how it could be applied in the grants categories or the grant scoring. All right. We have our to-do list.
So I feel like that we have already went through the agenda. So we need to set our next, Chair Jenny, we need to set the next committee meeting. Is that what we need to do?
Yes.
I feel
Great show now.
In the next.
I'm so sorry. You broke up a little bit, Mattia.
I'm sorry. I said, remind me who's going to chair this committee.
So Sherry will be the chair starting in November.
Okay, Sherry, well, I'm gonna let you decide when our next meeting is.
So I will just share two little caveats because normally this committee is very just straightforward about scheduling. Because of the grants guideline discussion, and Janine, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we're asking for a 2-hour meeting. And additionally, we'll be joined by, I believe, 3 new members. So I will need to pull their availability. I know Thursdays at 9 a.m. have been working for us for a while, but one of the new committee members has a conflict on Thursdays at 9 a.m. So we don't necessarily have to decide now. I just wanted to go ahead and share those 2 caveats with you and see if there were particular times that y'all wanted to throw out, or like as not, I'll probably send out a survey for y'all to respond to.
Yeah, that's probably the best idea. I'm so sad that Thursday at 9 a.m. is not going to work. I really like this time.
And it's nice to start in the morning
time
fresh.
as well.
Would another day in the morning work?
I mean, my schedule is flexible, so
me.
Yeah, I 9 a.m. is good for me on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Okay, by Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wonderful. So we'll try to keep our AM going.
Every day for this is Jackie. Every day for me, but Wednesday morning.
Okay, no Wednesday morning. Wonderful. Well, I will take all of this into consideration as I'm sort of coordinating with our new members. And we'll see if we can't keep our lovely AM time going for y'all.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I think this completes our meeting. And so I am going to call for us to adjourn. I really appreciate all your time and your thoughtfulness, everybody, to the staff and the committee.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mattia.
Thank
Great
you.
leadership.
Thank you for being our chair this past year, Mattia. It's been
Yeah.
wonderful.
Bye.
Bye,
So
y'all.
much,
Bye.
Tia. Bye, everyone.
Thanks,